In this video, we're gonna go through the rankings of each luxury SUV and divide it up by categories and prices. Yes, we've already done a big long video about all the SUVs and our top ranked SUV in each category.
But today we're gonna cover everything that's luxury, and we're gonna cover it more in depth than we did when we did our total SUV overview.
All the vehicles that we've talked about have gone through Edmunds' standardized rating process that involves a drive loop over a specific distance. We take fuel economy measurements. We do all kinds of fun stuff to make sure that these vehicles meet your demands. Let's kick it off with extra small luxury SUVs. This is a really popular segment now, isn't it?
This is really where you find the most affordable luxury vehicles, the ones that most people can get into when they first want to step up to a luxury badge.
There are downsides to that, of course, because these are smaller vehicles that are designed to be inexpensive. So you're not gonna get like the full luxury SUV package here.
It's almost worth stepping up to the compact class if you really want to spend that much on a luxury SUV.
All that said, there are vehicles in here with good virtues. Number one in this category is the BMW X1. We like this little SUV a lot, actually. It may be one of our favorite BMWs out there.
Yeah, it is. That's a little shocking, a little sad.
For a front drive.
Right? Yeah. Hey, our favorite BMW, guess what, guys? It's a front wheel drive lifted hatchback, basically.
Just like the Ridgeline from the Midsize truck video. The BMW X1, I mean, it's fast. We tested the xDrive 28i, which has got the turbo 2-liter. We've driven front wheel drive variants, we've driven all-wheel drive variants. This is a fun compact SUV to drive.
It is. It's also actually practical. This is, in this class, you get a ton of cargo space. If you fold down the rear seats, it's just a massive cargo hold, which makes it really usable. You get a good amount of passenger space too, which in this class is not a guarantee for the back seat especially.
Yeah, and it's that mixture of, the roundel on the hood, right? That badge presence, driving dynamics and interior usability that really sets this thing apart. We're talking about a 2019 version, 2020 version's coming up next year that has some minor updates, some minor improvements. I think the larger entertainment display is standard now. The downsides to this vehicle are few, but if they affect you, you'd want to know. For one, no Android Auto support, which is, I think we're both Android users.
Yeah.
That's not cool, right? And Apple CarPlay is available, but after the first year of ownership, it becomes a subscription service.
This is just something BMW is doing. I mean, it's not our favorite. If you've got the money for the car, it's probably not a deal breaker for you. They say they're doing Apple CarPlay because most of their shoppers use Apple CarPlay. Yeah. So, that's where they're putting their money. You can buy a longer subscription ahead of time and save a little money and just roll it into the cost up front. Man,
it's a weird decision because no other automaker so far does this.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the one like head scratcher with the X1.
Please, nobody get ideas, okay?
Don't follow the leader in this part. But overall, X1 is solid, and you're certainly not going to run into this issue or feel it as hard if you lease it. But let's move on to number two, and number two is kind of a misnomer because the Volvo XC40 is actually tied in our rankings for first with the X1.
The XC40, a lot of what got it here is just what it looks like.
Yeah.
Both inside and out, it looks neat. They did a lot of nice design touches. It's actually very different from other Volvos.
Modern Volvo design is really cool. All models look great. This has more of a characterful look and feel to it. It's more playful, but it still matches like the rest of the Volvo aesthetic. I think we can all agree it's not as exciting or fun to drive as the X1.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, and these are small vehicles we're talking about, but you do get pretty solid interior space. You do get a wealth of standard and optional safety features that add some of that sense of security that's important to a lot of shoppers. The only real downsides, and it depends on who you are as an owner, is that entertainment system, that big vertical thing, can be hit and miss. But in this realm of vehicles, they're all kind of mixed with their offerings.
Yeah, nobody's doing a super simple infotainment display, right? And a bunch of these winners have a lot going on. They're trying to give you a lot of features for your money, so they're not that simple. And this one is kind of busy. There's a lot going on that screen that you have to deal with. But other interior design choices are pretty smart. They thought about how people are going to use this car and gave them some options for interior storage, which is a nice touch.
If you're looking for a compact luxury SUV, you get the X1 if you want to enjoy like the driving experience and want that acceleration. And you get the Volvo if you want something a bit more characterful, right? And attention paid to the interior storage detail is really important too.
Yeah. Our third place vehicle in this segment is the Mini Countryman.
Yeah.
right? The Mini Countryman, it is the only thing in I think the entire luxury SUV realm that offers you a manual transmission if you're somebody who wants to row your own.
If you want a manual transmission in your luxury SUV,
it's a pretty good manual transmission, and it's a
Mini's
small
for you.
vehicle. I think there's an argument to be made. It works pretty well in that vehicle because it is kind of small. You know, it is a little playful to drive. The problem is value, the question of value with the Countryman. I think for me that's where it sort of falls apart because the base engine is a little slow, the faster engine starts to get pricey, and while it's very customizable, it's just not a great value once you load it up.
it stands out more because the Mini Countryman shows on Edmunds.com. It has actually a lower base price. The extra small luxury SUV starts at around $30,000. This one's a bit lower than that, but the price does go up pretty quickly once you start adding options. We're also looking forward to, we haven't tested it yet or gone through a rating process, the Mercedes-Benz GLB, which could be a big upset in this field, but we'll come to that when we test it.
Yeah. All right, shall we move up a size class? Talk about the compact SUVs, the small luxury SUVs. This is the bread and butter. I mean, this is where everybody wants to play, right?
This is when you start getting into like the real luxury features, fully formed vehicles that don't have a lot of downsides. And there's a lot of variety in this segment too. These are all going to start around $40,000. And there's a lot of players in this segment. There's the Germans, the domestic brands, and the Japanese brands. There's a ton in here. Our number one ranked compact or small luxury SUV is the Mercedes-Benz GLC. We like this thing a lot.
Mercedes is knocking it out of the park right now. I mean, the interior in the GLC is fantastic. The features that are available to you, especially if you have the money, the upgrades you can get on the GLC are like nothing else in the class. I mean, really, the luxury vehicle that you wind up with here is just a great luxury vehicle, even if it's a small SUV.
And you have a wide variety of configuration. I should point out that the second ranked vehicle is the GLC Coupe, which is the GLC, but they sacrifice rear headroom and cargo volume to give it that downward sloping rear roof line, which, you know, adds some character. And if you don't really care about maximum cargo capacity, that's a cool avenue to go down. You also have a range of engine options for the standard GLC, and then you have the AMG variants as well, which is like a whole nother realm of performance. The GLC can satisfy a lot of shopper needs depending on which one you want to get.
I will say that the GLC is one of the older Mercedes on sale right now, and they have updated it pretty effectively. For 2020, it gets M-Bucks, which is great. That's a big upgrade from Command, even though Command isn't bad.
Yeah. M-Bucks, we should explain, is their new entertainment system, which uses a lot of really intuitive control methods and a lot of redundant controls, so you can kind of interact with the navigation, the stereo, your climate control settings, all that stuff in the way that you want, and it feels obvious, like this is the way it should work. You can just call out, hey Mercedes, make it hotter, and it does. You know, that kind of no-duh logic, the stuff that you would expect from your phone, this is actually close to delivering.
Oh yeah, I mean, these are, I think, the best voice controls in the game right now.
Yeah, easily, at least the most intuitive, right? Yeah. And on top of that, it also supports Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, so if you still don't want to use it, you just plug your phone in and use that and it's fine.
The one other thing that bums me out a little bit about this older platform is that the 6-cylinder option for the AMG is the old V6 and not the new mild hybrid 48-volt inline 6, which is a fantastic motor. The V6 is fine.
Yeah, it's good.
I just, I wish that 53 variant was available here.
And it undoubtedly will be in time, but for the time being, this is still again, a solid all-around SUV that serves a lot of needs. If you look through our actual rating, it's not like one area that stands out. It's just like everything is a solid score. I mean, I'm looking at like a bunch of 8.5s or 8.0s through the entire ranking. It doesn't really stand out one area. It just does everything generally well. Comfortable, quiet, has enough power, enough cargo volume, good fuel economy for what you're getting. It's just a solid all-around vehicle. Let's talk about the XC60.
It's actually kind of different from the XC40. I mean,
quite a bit.
The XC60 has a more traditional Volvo interior design, right? This is more subdued. It's more minimalist Swedish furniture kind of thing going on there with the open pore wood and all the other stuff you can get in there that makes it a nice place to spend time.
Yeah, and Volvo offers, just the same with the XC40, all the safety equipment, which again, good peace of mind. When you get into the options, there's a lot of thinking towards families and how you set up the back seat for car seats and seat boosters and whatnot. And that's really clever thinking that not a lot of automakers aren't doing, if they are doing, they aren't doing it as obviously as Volvo is. Some of the downsides, at least relative to our first and second ranked vehicles, the powertrains aren't really there. They're fine, but they're not as good as what you get from Mercedes, for example.
Yeah, Volvo is still leaning into that reputation for safety. I mean, that's still really important for them. You talk to Volvo people, and they're going to talk about their history and tradition of safety first, and they're trying to keep that alive here and make sure that this is a vehicle that people who have families are going to want to put their families in.
And technology outside of safety stuff, when it comes to phone connectivity and that display, it isn't as robust as what you'll find elsewhere in the segment. But if you can live with that, if you play with it and you're like, oh, this is fine, you'll be happy with the XC60.
Speaking of technology, though,
yes.
How do you feel about the Acura RDX, the next one down?
What Acura delivers that a lot of the segment doesn't is value. It is a far less expensive vehicle generally than the vehicles that you would compare it to in terms of size. And so you're getting the same interior dimensions, plus or minus a bit here and there. You're getting a pretty attractive interior, and you're getting solid technology hardware, like underpinning the vehicle. You're not getting like the Mercedes quality interior design and so on, and you're getting it at a decent price.
I like the RDX. I think that interior design, it's something a little different in the class. You don't get a big digital display for your dash. Stuff like that's not available, but it is pretty fun to drive, and it's comfortable and largely well thought out. The ergonomics are well thought out. That infotainment system does really split opinions. It's a touch-based infotainment that works a little differently, splitting up the screen into sectors instead of just a whole trackpad that you're tracking around.
You really need to sit down and interact with the display to see if it matches what you'd expect from a vehicle, especially when it's moving too. Because if it requires too much attention while you're driving, it's not really a success, and that's different than sitting there static and playing around. But again, the RDX is a solid SUV that makes a lot of sense to the right buyer.
Yeah, let's talk midsize. This is a funny one because we have two midsize classes in our rankings.
This demands a bit of explanation. So we've created an arbitrary distinction between midsize SUVs and three-row midsize SUVs. The thinking is there are luxury midsize SUVs that come with the third row standard, and then there are luxury midsize SUVs that have a third row optional. And we've split it in those two buckets because if you don't need a third row, you're going to benefit from not getting that option. Of course, some three-row SUVs that have standard, you can remove it, but you kind of get into the weeds here. We get it. This is an arbitrary distinction, but it's one we've made.
Right, but you can save some weight, you can get some extra cargo space, maybe save a little money. We'll get into the exceptions. Oh man,
yes,
they're all over the map here. All right.
So starting, our number one ranked midsize luxury SUV is another Mercedes. It's a Mercedes-Benz GLE.
Shocker.
Right. We like the GLE a lot, especially this new one, which has been redesigned for 2020.
It's nice. That interior design just keeps getting better and better. Every new vehicle they release, I feel like it looks nicer on the inside than the one before it.
And we should say too that the GLE, the previous gen GLE, was the segment leader up until this new one came out, and then it's like, hey, this one's even better. I mean, the advantages on this one are the same advantages that you would say for all modern Mercedes vehicles.
Right.
The tech interface is really robust, the MBUX system. It rides really comfortably, really well. It looks sharp inside and out. This is what you'd expect from a large luxury SUV.
In one trim, we did have issues with one of our testers in terms of ride quality. This is something where you sort of have to think about what suspension and wheel combination you're getting, because there is so much customization on this. Not all of them work perfectly together.
The issue experienced with our tester was the optional air suspension, and it felt a little floaty on our test surface. And if you are sensitive to getting motion sick, I admit to that. This is a potential concern. Fortunately, you don't have to get this option.
Right.
You can get the standard fixed suspension, and that works great. And that's the only speed bump, I guess, in our recommendation for the GLE.
But that optional air suspension does have some strengths. This actually gives the GLE surprising off-road capability, which kind of came out of left field for this generation of GLE. I wouldn't expect GLE buyers to really demand off-road ability, but this has it.
It's a bragging right, like a 0 to 60 time is for any performance car, right? It's nice to know that you have it even if you never want to use it. And it also gives you some neat features like that ability to hop itself out of a rut, which may have a really limited and hyper-specific use case, but it's also a fun thing to show off to your friends. It's like, look, I make this car hop, and that's
90% of the time that's going to be used. It's going to be used in front of somebody's driveway going, check this out.
Absolutely. Fuel economy is about average. No real standout here. But again, this, like the GLC, the GLE has a wide variety of engines, powertrains, performance, ranging from the base model to a hybrid to like a twin turbo V8 with a gazillion horsepower that'll be coming soon. The GLE is available as a coupe as well, but that model is actually lower in our rankings. The second place of our midsize luxury SUVs is the Porsche Cayenne.
Something which you cannot get with the third row.
Cannot get with the third row. It's way more expensive, because it's a Porsche, right? But this is the one for like driving enthusiasts.
It's so good to drive.
It is hilariously fast and really, really fun. The turbo engines too are just ridiculous in terms of acceleration. But in spite of that, it still is a usable SUV. You just want this because it's fun to drive and you're okay with spending that money. The money actually kind of moves it to a different pricing category, even though it's roughly the same size and usability as the other SUVs.
Especially if you start getting into the really powerful variants.
Midsize luxury SUVs with a standard third row, our number one is the Audi Q7. And this has been the case for a long time.
It's just such a strong all-arounder. I mean, again, it's one of those vehicles that does so much so well and offers so much to the buyers, has so much that they can use day to day.
And we should call it too specifically, we're talking about the 2019 version. 2020, which has not gone through our rating process yet, is a pretty significant update. So we hope to reevaluate this, and it may reaffirm our position or it may change. But that's why we update our ratings in real time. So you have to go to Edmunds.com to see when that happens. But the Q7, like all Audis, really nicely designed from an aesthetic standpoint. It's a really attractive vehicle. And that also extends to the interior too, which looks very modern.
It's a very nice space, but it's not quite as flashy as Mercedes is right now.
It's clean and modern without being ostentatious, right? And then from an interior perspective, you get the standard third row. It's like most third rows, it's made for kids, right? Like people often fall in the trap of saying, oh, I'm a full-size adult, I can't fit in the back of the third row. And it's like, well, that's not because it's made for you. And you've got good cargo space. Again, solid all-around capability. But if we go a little bit further down the list, we get to the, not a little bit further down. If we go one step down the list, we get the Acura MDX. The MDX, like the RDX, its strength is value versus the competition and the features that it delivers. Large SUV with good interior space, standard third row, and versus the Q7, it costs a lot less.
Oh, it costs a lot less. And you can also get the SH all-wheel drive hybrid version, which is actually a hybrid version that you want to drive, right? It's not as powerful as a Porsche hybrid, but it gives you a little bit more efficiency and some nice handling benefits in a package that's actually pleasant.
It actually is fun to drive, and it has been for a lot of Acuras previously. On top of that, you get great interior volume and, again, solid all-around performance. I think the user interface, like the RDX, is the big question mark.
It's an older version of the Acura technology, and it's a little rough.
I think, it's the antithesis of Audi's clean, modern look, right? You've got two screens, and neither of which are easy or nice to use while you're driving. It's one of those things like, hey, you could look at it from the perspective of, hey, I'm saving money, getting all this other nice features and tech, and this is the downside. How okay am I with it, using it on a day-by-day basis, right? That's the decision you have to make yourself as the shopper. But that's why we've placed it underneath the Audi. Let's move up to the big baller luxury SUVs, which we have classified as large luxury SUVs. They did not take my suggestion to call these baller on the site, which is frustrating. These are as close to the traditional SUV definition that you can find. These are big. They don't get particularly great fuel economy. They're made for towing, they're made for hauling, they're made for big families. They have big engines, they have lots of capability. These are the modern luxury family truckster.
Oh yeah, and they got the price tags to match.
Oh yeah, and some range in that price tag. I think it's fair to say that a large luxury SUV should have a lot of capability for the family, but it should also make a statement. And it's that thinking that led us to the Lincoln Navigator. Boy, howdy does it make a statement. It is a really cool car. We should say, it took our Editor's Choice Award last year because we were really struck by the capability, the interior space, the driving pleasure, the interior design, the unique luxury approach Lincoln's taken with this vehicle.
Yeah, this really debuted Lincoln's most recent iteration of their evolution in becoming a unique luxury brand and setting themselves apart a little bit from the field. And they did a good job. I mean, the interior design in this really stands out in the class, as do all the new Lincolns now.
This is not trying to be a BMW, Mercedes, or Audi. This is a uniquely American take on luxury, and it works. You've got a really strong turbo V6 that delivers a lot of power, and that comes with a strong tow rating too, which is good if you're hauling the family and a boat, let's say.
And you also get all of the towing aids that Ford has developed for their full-size pickup trucks and heavy-duty trucks, right? They've spent a lot of time making towing easier for people in other classes, and that technology has made its way here.
If you want a vehicle this size to do this stuff, this does it well.
And this thing is huge. It's big for the large SUV class. It is so long and so tall, it's not going to fit in a lot of people's garages. It's just not.
And then it even comes in a longer L variant.
Right.
Right, if you really need that space. So, I mean, we're talking in the category that really demands the size and space, and this gives you that. If we go further down to the next spot on the ranking, the BMW X7, which is a completely new model for BMW.
Yep.
It's their first like massive luxury SUV in this size, let's say. This was a nice vehicle that had a lot of caveats, let's say. You know, and it's stuff that applies to a lot of BMW tech as well. Like the X1, there's only Apple CarPlay and it's subscription based,
right,
which is nuts on a vehicle that costs this much money. No Android Auto. The ride can be really nice depending on how you spec the vehicle. I mean, we see this in a lot of modern German cars where they come with these really high-tech adaptive air suspensions. When they work great, and then when they don't, it's like, wow, this road is really rough. Why am I feeling this?
There are some caveats to this, certainly. You know, I mean, cargo space is one, especially for something this big. But they took everything that makes the 7 Series kind of a legend and just scaled it up a little bit more, right? I mean, so much of the interior trim that you can get, the upgraded switchgear, all of the surface treatments, all of that stuff that makes the 7 Series feel special is now in a big SUV with room for at least 6 people, right?
We have to talk about the twin turbo V8. That engine freaking rocks. Not only is it really powerful and feels good to accelerate, it sounds awesome. Like,
it sounds so nice.
I don't care how they're making that sound come into the cabin, whether it's through resonators or through the stereo. It sounds really nice when you step on it. It is the optional engine, of course. And the handling of this thing is, let's say, unnecessarily good.
If you're carrying your kid's soccer team in the back, like, do you really need to corner at like 0.9 G? You know, is that necessary?
This is what G-force is, right? Like, it's great if you're driving. When we were testing it, I kept looking down at the speedometer going through freeway interchanges, wondering, like, is this necessary? Should I be able to do this? And your family may hate you for it, but that's an attribute worth calling out because I don't think any other luxury SUV of this size can do this.
And that's something that BMW shoppers have traditionally appreciated about the brand, right? It gives you that extra driving edge in the vehicle.
I mean, for a long time, they've called it an ultimate driving machine. It's funny that
well, not anymore.
We enjoy it most of the X1 and the largest SUV they make.
Now it's the ultimate subscription machine.
Oh.
Sorry, BMW.
Shall we talk about super luxury SUVs?
Is it necessary?
Okay, how about this? If you are watching this video right now and honestly can't decide between a Bentley Bentayga, Lamborghini Urus, and Rolls-Royce Cullinan, let us know. Because we would love to justify a comparison between those. And so if you were honestly, you have to prove that you were actually considering buying one of these vehicles. I'll do it for 5% of the MSRP.
Yeah, I mean, for a small fee relative to the cost of these things,
hey,
we'd be happy to help you personally.
Just for the point of clarification, like the Cullinan, I think is like $300,000. So
to start.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bentayga,
yeah,
right? The Bentayga has a clock that costs more than most houses in this country.
Have you seen the clock?
It's gorgeous.
It's a nice clock.
It's ridiculous.
I want to say 65 grand.
It can be significantly more than that because the clock itself is highly customizable.
Oh, of course.
Right, so it's a tourbillon inside of a winding movement that's built into the dashboard, and you can customize all the parts of it. So if you want it made out of, mother of pearl with inlaid diamonds, they'll do it for you.
What if I want a Casio F91W? In there. You think they do that?
Can I get a calculator watch right here?
I have one at home. We could just tape it right on. I think that would be pretty rad. Anyway, that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. For all the latest reviews and ratings, be sure to visit Edmunds.com and be sure to hit that subscribe button with all the might you can.
That's how we buy our Cullinans.